Greetings, students. Welcome to my class. Students, we started the second chapter of your English supplementary book, Footprints Without Feet. And we started the first chapter. The name of the first chapter is A Triumph of Surgery, which is written by James Alfred White Harriet. So in short we can call James Harriet. So far we have read that in this chapter Tricky the dog, he has become like a blotted sausage. He has gained too much weight due to the pamperedness and overfeeding by his master, who is a mistress here in this story, who is a rich woman. And because of her over pamperedness and over protecting, over loving, over caring attitude and overfeeding, the dog has gained too much weight. He can't even walk properly. And the narrator, who is a veterinary doctor in this chapter, he advised the lady to follow a strict diet for the for the dog. And he also advised the lady to cut down on the sweets and don't give sweets to the dog. On that which she replies that she did it for a while, but she felt that he was getting weaker. So she starts making excuses. And then doctor knew, because he was a doctor, he knew that sooner or later the Mrs. Pumphrey, the lady's name, the owner of the dog's name is Mrs. Pumphrey, she is going to call him, because he knew that she is not gonna stop feeding him, and the dog is already in bad situation, and the situation will become worse. It will not become better, it will become worse. And that's what exactly happened. After a few days he got the call, and he knew that this is gonna happen. So he had already made a plan, and then he advised that the Tricky the dog needs to be hospitalized for 14 days, for fortnight. Means a period of 14 days, for 2 weeks. And on that advice, Mrs. Pumphrey started crying. She almost fainted, and she started saying that dog would die if he does not see me for 1 day. He cannot live without me 1 day. But he was already, the narrator, the doctor, already he had already made up his mind, and he knew that Pumphrey is gonna say Mrs. Pumphrey is going to say all these things. So he was firm in his decision. He just came out of his car and took Pumphrey from the hands of took Tricky from the hands of Mrs. Pumphrey, who was wrapped in a blanket, and he moved in his car. We have read so far up to here, my dear students. Now we will continue after that. So we will continue when the doctor, when Mr. Harriet, the narrator or the doctor, took the Tricky in his hand. Then everyone, because as we know that the owner of the dog was a very rich woman. She was a very rich woman, so she was surrounded by maids and servants and all that. So what happened when he was taking the dog, when the narrator was taking the dog to the hospital, what happened? Let's read. The entire staff was roused here means woke up. The entire house became alert. They started moving here and there, and and maids rushed in and out. Rushed means in a hurry. They were in hurry because they saw that the dog is going from the house to the hospital. And now everybody became alert, and the maids were started running in a hurry. They were going inside and outside the house and bringing all the stuff of the dog, like his day bed, night bed, favorite cushions, toys and rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl, everything they were bringing, and they were running in and out in hurry. जैसे ही डॉक्टर ने उसको ले जाना चाहा वह और हाथों में लिए, वैसे ही पूरा का पूरा स्टाफ हरकत में आ गया, अलर्ट हो गया, और मेड्स उसका सारा का सारा सामान लाने लगी, अंदर जा रही थी, बाहर जा रही थी, सब कुछ लेके आए वो उसका. Realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, when doctor saw this and he realized that his car cannot take all the stuff, so what he did, I started to drive away. He started his car and started moving his car, driving his car slowly. As I moved off, जैसे ही मैं आगे बढ़ा, now the narrator is saying, जैसे as I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey with a despairing cry. Despairing cry means when you lose all hope. She knew now that doctor is taking the dog for 14 days, so she lost all hope and निराश हो गई बिल्कुल ही. Threw an armful of the little coats through the window, and she knew the dog is going for 14 days, so she lost all the hopes and she was crying. निराशा में, जब हम रोते हैं सारी उम्मीदें खोकर, उस निराशा में रोते हुए, देन शी थ्रू एन आर्मफुल, उसने पूरा एक आर्मफुल भरा हुआ था जो उसका हाथ, उस लिटिल कोट्स फॉर द ट्रिकी, शी जस्ट थ्रू इनसाइड the car through the window of the car. I looked in the mirror. Before I turned the corner of the drive, everybody was in tears. When the doctor looked in the side mirror, when he reached to the drive and he was turning the car, he was taking the car away from them, he looked in the mirror and what did he see? He saw that everybody was in tears, everybody was crying, हर कोई रो रहा था, सबकी आंखों में आंसू थे, because Tricky was going, he was very close to them, especially to the owner, Mrs. Pumphrey, who really loved her dog, and other than Mrs. Pumphrey, all the staff, everybody was in tears. Out on the road, I glanced down at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. Out on the road, when he reached to the road after coming out from their after leaving the house, and when he came out on the road, the doctor glanced down at the pathetic little animal. Glanced down, student, here glanced down means सरसरी तिरछी निगाहों से जब हम किसी को देखते हैं, to look suddenly and to look quickly, when we do that, that is the meaning of glance down. So he just glanced down, gave a rapid look, we can say. He just glanced down at the pathetic dog, little animal, gasping on the seat by my side. Gasping, I have already told you, means painting, not to draw something, to means हाफना, जब हम हाफते हैं, and the dog was painting or gasping to by gasping on the seat by my side. He was gasping, he was sitting just next to the doctor, and he was gasping, हाफ रहा था. I patted the head. Patted here means सहलाना. This patted here means when you tap your hand on somebody's head and move slowly, so that is called patting, on the head, on the body, on the back, it can be. So when he patted his hand, the doctor patted his hand on the head of the dog, and Tricky made a brave effort to wag his tail. Wag means to move, shake, to shake his tail. Tail, everybody knows, pooch. When doctor patted his hand on head of the Tricky, though he was very ill, seriously, he tried a brave effort to wag his tail. अपनी पूंछ हिलाने की कोशिश की, as normally dogs do. Poor old lad, बेचारा जानवर, बेचारा दोस्त, बेचारा साथी. lad एज अ फ्रेंड भी बोल सकते हैं, एज अ कलीग भी बोल सकते हैं. वी यूज़, ओ माई लैड, यू आर माई लैड, यू आर माई फ्रेंड. तो ही सेड पुअर ओल्ड लैड, कितना पुराना दया आ रही थी उसके ऊपर. सो ही सेड पुअर ओल्ड लैड. आई सेड, यू हैवेंट अ किक इन यू, बट आई थिंक आई नो अ क्योर फॉर यू. You haven't a kick in you means you have left no strength in you, but still you are waving your tail for me. दैट्स वाई ही सेड पुअर ओल्ड लैड, तुम्हारे बिल्कुल भी ताकत नहीं बची, फिर भी तुम पूछ लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, मुझे दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो. आई थिंक आई नो अ क्योर फॉर यू. दैन डॉक्टर सेड, नरेटर सेड दैट, मुझे लगता है कि मुझे पता है तुम्हारा क्योर क्या है, तुम्हारे लिए क्या इलाज है. क्योर मीन्स द ट्रीटमेंट, द इलाज जिसको हम बोलते हैं. So students, here it is read and find out. We will read and find out the questions, following questions. When we will read further, is the narrator as rich as Tricky's mistress? How does he treat the dog? Why is he tempted to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest? Why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? We will read the chapter further and then we will find out the answers of these following questions. So let's read. At the surgery, students, surgery means different things. It basic means the operation. when you शल्य चिकित्सा जिसको हम बोलते हैं, it is a place also where doctor treat their patients or give some advice or cure them in. You can operate their bodies if some serious illness is there. And surgery also means that when the cure. So when here in this line, surgery, at the surgery means at the hospital. Here this line, the place where the doctor took him, and veterinary doctor will took the dog to its hospital where other animals are kept, where other dogs are kept. So he took there. At the surgery, the household dogs, जितने भी वहाँ पर dogs थे घर में रखे हुए for the treatment, surged round me. Surged round means gathered, क्राउडेड, वो इकट्ठे हो गए. डॉक्टर के पास जितने डॉग्स थे वो सारे के सारे वहाँ पर इकट्ठे हो गए वहाँ पर हॉस्पिटल में. ट्रिकी लुक्ड डाउन एट द नोजी पैक विद डल आइज. As the doctor reached to the hospital, all other dogs surrounded him, crowded. They just came and gathered around him, and Tricky was in the hand of the doctor. So Tricky looked down. Noisy, they were making noise, so he looked down with dull eyes. बुझी हुई आँखें, बीमार था, he was not well, तो बिल्कुल निराश थी, बुझी हुई आँखें, ताकत नहीं थी जिनमें. And when the author put down Tricky by lay motionless. Lay motionless means बिना हिले डुले चुपचाप लेटा रहा वो. जब उसने उसे नीचे रखा ऑन द कारपेट पे नीचे रखने पर वो बिल्कुल हिले डुले. ले मोशन विदाउट एनी मोशन, विदाउट एनी मूवमेंट ऑफ द बॉडी, ही वॉज lying on the carpet. The other dogs, after sniffing around for him for a second, sniffing around means तो सूंघना, उसको देखना. Other dogs came near him, breathing through nose as the dogs normally do. They just sniff means सूंघते हैं अपनी नाक से. They did the same action and for a few seconds, and then decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. Then they, after sniffing him for a few seconds, the other dogs think that he was an object which is uninteresting, which is not they did not take any interest in him, and they just ignored him and went away from there. I made up a bed for him in a warm loose box next to the one where the other dogs slept. So the doctor made arrangement for the Tricky to sleep, and he made that arrangement in a warm loose box with the other dogs, and where the other dogs used to sleep. So he made an arrangement for Tricky in a warm loose box with the other dogs, besides the other dogs, उनके साथ में ही. For 2 days, अगले 2 दिनों के लिए, I kept an eye on him. So he kept an eye on him. Narrator is saying that अगले 2 दिनों के लिए मैंने उस पर नज़र रखी. Giving him no food but plenty of water. He did not give him any food for 2 days, but gave him enough water. Plenty of water means काफ़ी सारा पानी दिया. At the end of the second day, he started to show some interest in his surroundings, and on the third he began to whimper. Students, whimper here means means that when you muttering, for the 2 days he was motionless, he was not even doing what the dogs do there. He was not barking at all, he was very ill. But at the end of the second day, when he was on, when the author was giving him only plenty of water, not anything to eat, at the end of the second day he started whimpering. He whimpered. and as it is written here, and on the day he started to sorry student, I have left one line in between. At the end of the second day he started to show some interest in his surroundings. At the end of the second day, Tricky started to show some interest in his surroundings means he started to show some interest in the other dogs. And on the third he began to whimper. On the third day, at the end of the third day, he started muttering. He started means in a very slow volume, in a very slow voice, low voice. He started he started crying, or he started saying dogs bark. He started barking in a very low voice at the end of the third day, when he heard the dogs in the yard. So at the end of the third day, when he heard the voice of other dogs in the yards, maybe they may be playing or enjoying themselves, so he started muttering. He started whimpering, means he started crying in a very low voice. When I opened the door, and when the narrator opened the door, Tricky trotted out. Here trotted means in action which is between walk and a run. It is not walking, and it is not that you are running. You are just jumping all the four legs in the air, then jumping. So means hopping. And he trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe the greyhound and his friends. And the moment he came out, he was immediately means turant engulfed means surrounded. Engulfed here means encircled, उसको घेर लिया. Engulfed means encircle, चारों तरफ से वो किससे गिर गया? By Joe the greyhound, the other dogs, Joe named the greyhound and his friends, और दूसरे dogs ने उसे आगे encircle कर लिया, घेर लिया. After rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, the dogs moved off down the garden. After rolling him means they were moving him one side, then on the other side, like the dogs do. You must have seen other dogs. One dog lie on the floor, and the other dogs come near him, and they move here and there. And then after doing that and thoroughly inspecting him, they checked thoroughly. उसकी पूरी तरह से जांच पड़ताल करने के बाद, उसको हर तरह से घुमाने के बाद, इधर घुमा उधर घुमाने के बाद, और उसको चेक करने के बाद बहुत अच्छी तरह से द डॉग्स मूव्ड ऑफ डाउन द गार्डन. वो गार्डन की तरफ चले गए, गार्डन में चले. ऑफ डाउन द गार्डन के नीचे चले गए, गार्डन में चले गए. ट्रिकी फॉलोड देम, एंड ट्रिकी उनके पीछे गया. रोलिंग स्लाइटली विद हिज सरप्लस फैट. रोलिंग, ही वॉज जस्ट रोलिंग स्लाइटली, धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ रहा था. विद हिज सरप्लस फैट तो उतना ही था, बहुत ज़्यादा फैट ही था वो, तो धीरे धीरे उनके पीछे गया वो.